Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Chien, CEO of PrizePool, a new type of fintech that incentivizes you to save more and spend less through a lottery-like experience. It's also FDIC insured, so they never touch your money. And they only work as a banking partner. Frank, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to learn from your journey, and you've had some really interesting stops along the way until PrizePool. Obviously, we got to chat about the acquisition, but also kind of this new, I guess, interesting experience that I think is really in line with what a lot of companies are doing, which is incentivizing users in a very positive and influential way for them to have a great experience, but also to get benefits from the technology that they're using. But before we talk about PrizePool and all that good stuff, what were you doing before you started the company?
Yeah, Julian, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And happy to tell you everything about PrizePool, what we've been up to. But I think to your point, how far back do you want to go? I've been in tech for a while now. I guess to sum up my quick experience prior to PrizePool is that I really got off my career, started at Facebook. I was an early Facebook employee, joined in 2007, actually. So I spent, about 4.5, almost 5 years there. One of the best companies I ever worked for in my life. I owe many thanks to Facebook. I actually met my wife there as well.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. But, I left Facebook at the end of 2011, wanted to scratch that entrepreneurial itch, right? And I started a company called LearnSprout. And what LearnSprout really was an ed tech company focused on helping schools use all this data that they accumulate and actually put it to action. And one of the things we wanted to do was how to actually identify dropout students, right, with school data and help them prevent them from actually dropping out, right? And so that was LearnSprout's whole focus. And we sold that company after 3.5 years of operating that to Apple. And so Apple acquired us. It was a great acquisition. Obviously, I'll talk about that more. But then did Apple helping out, running their product and strategy for enterprise and education. And stayed there until PrizePool, really. So
Yeah.
been a fun ride. Nonetheless, very interesting one, but fun enough.
Yeah, no, it's so fascinating. I think you're one of very few founders I've had on the show that, kind of had the experience at a company like Facebook, a FANG company, where I'm sure there was just so much growth and transition along the way. And as they continue to kind of really disrupt, an industry within themselves. And also they went through acquisitions and I mean, we can talk, time and time again about the different, moves that Facebook has gone through. But what did you learn kind of early on in your career working for a bigger company and having kind of an insider view on how companies should scale or the decisions they make or, the testing that they're doing? What was that experience like? And what did you take away from that you used when you began starting your own?
Yeah, great questions. I think particularly for Facebook, I drank too much Kool-Aid because again, I learned so much. I think they did a few things really well. One, the culture was amazing. Especially during those times, the culture was, heads down, build, do everything else, right? Just don't worry about the media, just keep on building, keep on going. And they had a very, quote unquote hacker type culture, right? Build first, try out new things, move fast, right? And I think that type of ethos is very necessary in the startup world, right? You have to move fast. That's one of the main advantages, right? And Paul Graf talks about this all the time. And so I think Facebook really emboldened that type of spirit of like building, moving fast. And I think one thing they also taught me particularly is how to use data, right? I think, data driven and how to actually make decisions based on data. I think Facebook taught me a really valuable lesson around that, how they use data to make decisions there, right? And so I think those kind of values are building great culture, moving fast, using data are very sweet building blocks for my own entrepreneurial career. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you moved into, LearnSprout and got into kind of that, entrepreneurial journey, what about that experience or what about that entrepreneurial itch kind of focused on that in particular, like going into schools, creating technology around identifying dropout students? Was that kind of the whole antithesis of this experience, or what got you into transitioning? I feel like a lot of founders always say that, that itch was always there and it was just about the timing. Was that kind of a similar experience and what kind of led you in that direction?
Yeah, great question. I think Paul Graf also talks about that, like, you shouldn't start a startup just because you want to start a startup, but that's what we wanted to do. We left, I left Facebook, my co-founders left their own companies like Google and Microsoft to start a company. We actually didn't know exactly what it was, but we knew it wanted to be something in the education space, right?
Yeah.
And we went digging, really. And we realized that a lot of schools, especially at the time, didn't necessarily have either the tool sets or the expertise in looking at a bunch of data and making sense of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so we figure like, hey, I think this could be a really big thing where we actually can make sense of data that all these schools already have to help them make better decisions, especially around dropout, right? Because a lot of schools, public schools, get paid on attendance. Until if someone drops out, they lose funding. And it's also, of course, very destructive for that student usually. Right. And so I think that was kind of this beautiful synergy of like, okay, can we actually build cool products that are actually useful in schools that actually does something really, really powerful, right? E.g. helping schools get students back on track. And that's what we went for. And it's that one of the schools is really, really hard. We're talking about that a whole different episode, but that was kind of the genesis of why we wanted to do it.
Yeah. And it kind of basing an acquisition, I've talked to a few founders who went through kind of a similar acqui-hire where they were purchased by a company, then they started working, really got into, a really cool position, learning within another kind of larger organization to take more lessons and use those and utilize that experience for a new startup. But what was that acquisition like? Did you have multiple options on the table? If you were to do it over again, would you do it the same? What was that experience like, being acquired by a big company like Apple and then, transitioning into a role where you're affecting a kind of a larger brand again? It was similar, I'm sure, to your Facebook experience where you're part of, a larger organization. But what was that acquisition like?
So great questions. So much to unpack. We did have multiple offers. Apple actually edged out to be the best.
Yeah.
And, I think the advice for most founders out there is, you can run a process, but, as a CEO, my job was to build relations with potential partners and potential suitors. Right.
Yeah.
We learned about was actually working with Apple all around how to actually work together, 3 years prior to our actual acquisition. And so we actually got to know the team, or essentially they call it the champion, for a long time before we actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And so in that whole process, Apple's acquisition is a very long and tough process. I'll say this, they do the best DD ever. I mean, I never got someone in terms of legal fees, but they are very thorough in what they buy. And, I think that's another point to founders is that if you are going to get an acquisition done properly, it takes time. Right. Yeah. And so you want to make sure you got to go down the acquisition process that you have 3, 6, 9, 12 months of runway or more to go down, because once the acquirer knows that you're running out of cash and you need to sell, we didn't need the cash. We didn't need to sell. We had plenty of cash, but in this case, we had leverage. We could walk away. And once you lose the leverage, and once the acquirer knows that you're going to run out of cash and you're the only option, then you have no leverage. And then the negotiation, it becomes the acquirers essentially full ball in their court, right? And be very mindful of how you approach that. I think is the main lesson there.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the kind of the ultimate decision, or I guess maybe multiple factors that led you into being so sure that Apple was the right acquirer? I'm sure you as you mentioned, you had a few different options, but throughout the courting process, there must have been a few things that you keyed in on, and maybe other founders can get some snippets of advice, kind of if they're going through a similar experience. But what was the ultimate decision or a factor that made the decision to go with Apple?
Yeah. There's so much. I think a few things, prior to us getting acquired to Apple, again, I've known this champion for a long time. Even during my time at Apple people have some of the highest or the highest bars of integrity, right? What they say is who they are. And I love that particularly. And, they have a very strong brand in my mind in that. Right. And so, going into those negotiations, I could hopefully just be very what they're saying is very honest, right? They're not going to backstab me. They're not going to pull off at the 11th hour, which a lot of people fear, right?
Right.
Two, the offer was really good. And, I don't say this much, but their offer was all cash.
Yeah.
Right? And so sometimes when you sell to other companies, it may be an all stock deal.
Yeah.
Right. Or, it's all stock, but the acquirer is private.
Yeah.
And so then you have to their shares are tied up to now the acquired shares, but they're private. In the realization of that money may never happen. Versus here, your realization happened immediately once you sold. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then finally, I love Apple, and they provided very clear terms, very straight terms. There is no really hidden any got yous in any way to form. It's very clean. Right. And I give them major props for that. And at the end of the day, It was long, it was painful, but it was clean, and then they stuck to every single word. And I love it.
Yeah. Shifting and I guess moving forward into the future, this idea of PrizePool, where did this come about? Where did the itch, come again? Was it a different experience where you maybe saw something in the market, or was it like Facebook where you're like, you know what, I need to start something. I'm going to go hunting again and find a new idea. What was it, and what eventually inspired you to start this particular company?
Yeah, great question. So I left Apple in 2019, really just to take some time for myself, right? I just had a kid. I wanted to spend more time with my firstborn, and, I wanted just to figure out what I want to do next. And there's a couple of things that I love personally. One, I love finances. The second thing, I love gambling. And it's true. And, doing a lot of research around gambling particularly, I realized that, especially in America, half the population actually gambles. They play the lottery, right?
Right.
And that's kind of crazy, right? And as we all know, like the scratcher, the Powerballs, there's actually negative EV value, but more than half Americans play it. And usually during recession times where we are currently hovering, people play more, right? And that's unfortunate for a lot of Americans who don't have a lot of disposable cash to be spending money on scratchers or Powerball figures where they don't win anything. They actually lose, right? Because of negative EV. I came across a podcast that talked about, I think it was a Freakonomics podcast, that talked about the no-lose lottery and the no-loss lottery in the United Kingdom, right? It's called the UK Premium Bond.
I think I heard sorry, I heard of that same episode. Yeah, I listened to that same one. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I loved it. And it just kind of blew me away. Like, holy smokes. Like, it makes perfect sense. Like, can you have to build like essentially a lottery-like experience that instead of losing, you either don't lose and you have a chance of winning like a crazy ton of money, right? And I loved it. Now, like, this could actually work out really well here in the United States because, again, there's a huge amount of people who do this and they're losing money. Can you actually flip it and encourage them to, instead of lose money but save, to give them that chance of winning? And so that was kind of the genesis of PrizePool back in 2019.
Yeah.
So like, let's do it. I mean, no one else was trying at the time, and let's go.
Yeah. Well, what are the mechanics around this type of kind of saving, but also any kind of lottery-based system? I think, from a lot of us, when we have a banking partner, there's some unknown but known that the banking partner reinvests your money, kind of utilizes it to then, kind of distribute it through different shares or acquisitions that they use it. I think that's the famous story is if everybody pulled out the money at the same time of any specific institution, they wouldn't have enough to pay everyone out. But what are the mechanics that seems so new, so innovative in the sense that it kind of compounds on itself and also redistributes it to, a winner? What are the mechanics behind this?
It's actually pretty fun, actually, but pretty cool. And so to your point, like I think there's three beautiful things around all this. One, we do use the bank partner. It's all FDIC insured, right? And so your money is insured, which is amazing in itself. And two, we actually use a sweepstakes model around this. And so anything, so it's completely legal and compliant in all states. And how it works really is pretty simple. So Julian, you say you create a PrizePool account, you save with us, you save, $1,000 or more, or even less. It doesn't really matter. Let's just say $1,000 for fun. You get 1,000 tickets per day. Could be, you earn one ticket per every dollar saved. And every Friday, at noon Pacific, we do drawings where you can win, 10 cents up to, $10,000 depending on the week. And if you don't win, you never lose your money. And you still get a base APY, right?
Yeah.
And so, and how we do that essentially is just variable winnings. Like it's basically distributed, it's uneven distribution, right?
Sure.
So some people win some more during certain weeks, some people won't win as much during certain weeks, et cetera. But overall, should equalize to a pretty high rate, right? It's just if you're lucky, you might win like pretty crazy money, right?
Yeah.
And so, and how we actually generate those funds is that, the bank pays us based on, a percentage of deposits, right? And so, the Federal Reserve rate is going up. And so the bank pays us a good portion of that change to us. And then we can redistribute a bunch of that back to our users in the form of price.
That's incredible. It's so fascinating how many companies are kind of moving towards this model of incentivizing their users to, and within positive, like positive incentives. We always kind of think traditionally that, it's all about information and having that volume of information to keep you kind of, engaged in application or any type of technology. But now it's really about like education and also paying out different rewards. What do you think is causing this shift? Is it just, is there more incentive for companies to do this based on the economics of it? Or is it maybe more focused on like a social cause and that, when people feel good and positive, like positive psychology, it's actually better, has more positive effects towards, activity versus, negative rewards. So just curious where the shift is coming from.
I think, a lot actually has to be given credit to like gaming, right? Gaming has definitely shown the good and the bad in a lot of things, right? Like addictive behaviors, but like gamification of things and getting people to be repetitive tasks, right? But they also shown the power of incentives, right? Yeah. Whether good or bad, right? And you get the incentive being used in good ways or bad ways, and I'll highlight good ones for now. But like, you look at Apple Health, for example, right? Apple does a really good job of trying to incentivize you to walk more, right? Or Trauma does the same thing around like, biking or running. Yeah. But less trophies or badges or competition or et cetera. They try to really incentivize you to do things like that, right? It got actually pretty interesting. Like when COVID was here, or maybe it's still here, but COVID was fully rampant, and they were giving out vaccines, right? Like, I think it was Ohio that did the vaccine lottery, right? Where it's like anyone who I think Ohio got a vaccine shot, right? They were entered into winning $1 million from the state of Ohio, right? And that like drove vaccination rates by like 20-30%, right? And so like you see incentives being used across all industries, and like we're like, damn, it should definitely be used in finance. Like, why finance is so ingrained in every society. It's like, but especially in America, where people spend way too much and not save that enough, like, can it be used for a greater purpose in that sense? And so, I think I love incentives. I think it's here to stay, and a lot of credit goes to gaming.
Yeah. I'm so curious. How was the experience of building trust with your users? Because I'm sure the product was met with some skepticism, of course. Like, okay, well, I'm also going to save, but I'm also potentially going to earn more. Without investing in the stock market, or the traditional kind of ways we think about investing. What was the go-to-market strategy, and how did you gain that trust with their user base?
Great question. And we got a lot of like, this is too good to be true. You guys are crazy. Like, ass, F you guys. Like, people are really nasty for like not even trying the service. And the way we combat it is a few things. We try to be as transparent as possible, right? Have users tell their own stories. Ultimately, we kind of built in flood and referral programs. Like, anyone you refer Julian, your friend or family, and if they win, you win more money as well. Right. And so like you could see people winning more and you win more. And then we wanted to be as transparent as possible. Like any funds you put in, yes, the FDIC, you can hold the bank. Like go verify your money's at this bank and you can move money out anytime you want. Right. And so I think we try to be as transparent as possible. Two, it was actually really hard because you have to imagine like when we launched at the end of August, it was like August 2020, like midst the COVID. And this is also the time when the government started printing insane cash, free cash. And so everything's rocketing. But I think the long story short there is where everything started failing. Crypto started failing, equity started going down. They lost the scams like crypto, et cetera. We're still around. We're still paying out that cash. Yeah. Your money's still safe. FTX goes under, your money's still safe, right? And just like just getting this amazing reward. And so I think, trust is built over time. Yeah. Right. We have I think hundreds of thousands of winners, I think. And they have their own stories that they all tell your friends, right? But at the same time, like you can just look at a long history. Well, not that long, but a few years. We always pay. We'll give your APY monthly, et cetera. And so sometimes user trust is a long time to be earned.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the traction. You launched in August 2020. And obviously from then until now, there have been some macroeconomic changes. And even now we're facing maybe some more dire situation for who knows how long, short, long term. But tell us a little bit about the traction. How many users do you have? What kind of excitement are you building? Are there features coming out that the community should be excited about? Tell us a little bit about where you are today.
Yeah. So we have, hundreds of thousands of users on the platform or getting very close to that. Excuse me. And I think the main things around how we actually launched by partnering up with some like amazing influencers like Humphrey Yang, right? Who does his talks on TikTok, right? And I love Humphrey, he's a great guy. And that was like the catalyst to everything, actually.
Yeah.
Partnering with like really solid TikTokers or influencers, like really opened the door for us. I think we did so much traction. It broke our bank APIs because it was so much traffic. It was insane.
Yeah.
But I think in this actual environment that we're in today, especially, is that, because rates go up, we actually have more levers to actually give our users more money. Because ultimately we get more cash to distribute because interest rates go up. So the more assets that we hold, right, or our bank really holds, the more prizes we actually deliver, which actually means that we can actually impact more people.
Yeah.
More people win, or we're actually now very soon, I think in a few months, we're actually going to launch a new gaming experience. Right now we do the weekly drawing of a new quote unquote called gaming experience that's coming out. Also going to free, you never lose your money type of experience. But one of the prizes in there is going to be $1 million. Right. And so you get a chance to win $1 million any day, right? Again, just for saving money. Right. And so I think some pretty cool things are coming up in the future. And it's all because of this different environment that we're in. Like, it was really hard for us to operate like this during COVID when rates were zero.
Yeah.
Right. But as rates go up, we have to have more opportunities to be creative.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that PrizePool faces?
I think the main thing that we face today will probably be, great question, rates go up, meaning like high yield go up. Right. And so, for a lot of people want the variable winnings. Like, I want a chance to win $1 million, but there's going to be an opportunity cost, right? We can't give you the chance to win $1 million, but also give you the highest APY.
Right.
And so if you want a steady high APY, we're not that, right? You might get it out. You might eke it over time, right? Over like a year and might hit that high APY, but you want a consistent basis, we're not going to be that. And I think that's sometimes a tough pill to swallow for a lot of users.
Yeah.
Or, which is fine because we're going after the population that's okay with variable winning.
Yeah.
Right? And with okay with those high chances. And again, we think you got a pretty high yield, but it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it definitely does. And next question is if everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for PrizePool?
Yeah. So we like to say, we like to leave our financial rewarding type of game mechanics in every financial product out there. Right. Currently we offer a savings account type of product. We offer like a debit card, right, which has its own built-in gaming mechanics as well, where you can win, like your full purchase on us or more. We have a crypto product, which we can talk about that. So we want to do other things, investing, etc. Right. And so we want to have a central rewards platform next to all these different financial products, which we don't think anyone's done.
Yeah.
Right. Chase, I love Chase. I use Chase. Chase, has those Chase alternate rewards points.
Yeah.
My credit card. Great. But I don't get anything rewarding from Pop anymore, right, into my bank account. Why? Why does that work? If I had my mortgage through Chase, I don't get any rewards for that.
Yeah.
Why? Right. Or invest, right? Like, there's nothing that's, I think, central that ties it all together.
Yeah.
For all my financial actions, it's to be rewarded. And we want to build that. We want to build for any financial decision that you do or action, can we help you there, but also reward you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's something really powerful about that.
Yeah. What is it going to take to build all that?
Time. Time.
Yeah.
Time and trust.
Yeah.
Right. And thanks to my earlier point of it's kind of a flywheel effect. User trust takes time to build. Right. But it takes a moment to lose it. Right. And, hopefully our track record of being around, keep on paying, keep on awarding our prizes, full million of your cash. This whole FTX situation, it's really unfortunate for all those millions of people who lost money. Our users hold, we have this crypto product called Vault, that holds money in the USDC or a higher rate. Once we heard about the FTX issue, we immediately moved all those funds out of our partner back into the FDIC assured bank account, right? For our users on behalf on day one, right? And those funds are safe, they're parked there. They're also earning 4% FDIC, which is like unheard of anywhere in the United States. But I think to my point earlier, like it takes a flywheel, like keep on building user trust, keep on getting the word out there, keep on, growing our users. And I think we'll eventually keep on coming out with new products all the time.
Yeah. What makes your job particularly hard?
Landscape changes all the time.
Yeah.
Let's change it. It's hard. I worry about a lot of different things. Like what is the Fed going to do with rates? Because that impacts our bottom line. What is crypto going to do? Because that attacks our ancillary products, right? What is any regulation that's going to happen around financial products or whatever, right? And so like a lot of different baskets you have to worry about. What is the gaming regulation that'll do about sweepstakes, et cetera, right? And so like a lot of things to keep a pulse on, and this is really tiring to manage around that.
Yeah.
Right. And on my last point, I was like, keep on, combating the people who kind of like put butt on this type of product, right?
Yeah.
Because it's new in America. It's not new in like the Middle East or UK, which, tons of people play. So how to keep on spreading the gospel of what this is.
Yeah. A lot of founders talk about whether it's kind of a lonely experience or it's, there's a lot of challenges that sometimes you have to take on as a founder solo. And there's different ways that they kind of remedy that experience, whether it's, kind of spreading out what they do day to day or kind of coming back to some general philosophy. What advice would you give for founders who are, working on products like that are innovative in terms of disrupting kind of a traditional way of either saving money or something else in their industry? Do you have any kind of hacks or any proven strategies that you use to kind of go through the experience and kind of maintain that focus?
Yeah, I do actually. Well, to each, right, in many ways around this, like, so this worked for me. And like, one, like I have a wonderful co-founder, right, that we've been through this startup, Apple, our last startup. I know this guy since college, and I can be honest with him about anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's something there about having someone who is in the trenches with you, fighting for like a long time, that you can just be completely open and honest about the business.
Yeah.
Right. Just because there's so many things that you have to unpack there. Right. And only that other co-founder can really understand.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's something really necessary around that. Two, I love to try to go out and like just focus on me for like a little bit of the day, like when that's walking or running or something just like clears my own head, right? Because I think I need to just detach from like the craziness of the business and just like focus on my own mental health for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a marathon and not a sprint, right? Yeah,
right.
There's important things to be done, but not everything needs to be done immediately, and you can spend an hour away focusing on you, like just resting and healing and energizing, and then go attack. Because again, marathon and not sprint.
Yeah, I love that. I always like to ask this question both selfishly, but also for my audience to get some pieces of information to go research. But whether with early on in your career or currently, what are some books or people who have influenced you the most?
Man, it's such a good question. It's never going to laugh at me. I don't know why. This book always comes to mind, right? People are going to laugh. I don't know. I just love the book, Good to Great.
Yeah.
It's an old book. I just love the flywheel concept that just like dawns on me and like sticks me to this day, right? But like, it's Good to Great was a great book for me personally. Mentors, interesting. There's actually one. I don't know if I call him a mentor. One of our VCs, Ben Ling from Bling Capital. They just raised their third fund, by the way. Congratulations, Ben. Like $200 million fund or something. But he is one of my favorite VCs, mainly because he is one of the most honest VCs. He'll tell you, not say in an asshole way, but like he'll tell you how you can actually be better without telling you how to get there. He'll hold you to such a high, good bar, and is, I think, really useful, to be honest, right? Like a lot of VCs are just money in and like don't really try to like really keep you accountable. But I think he does such a good job of doing that it's just, it needs to be recognized more.
Yeah.
And I think, he's really good about how do we think about, okay, how do we get from just we're a seed stage that needs to get Series A, or, we're Series A going to Series B, but more like, okay, what is the goal for us in like 3 years? Like, how do we actually hit certain revenue milestones? What are our go-to-market strategies? Like, and like really unpack that deeply, right? And I think he does such a good job of trying to help us unpack that model, right? That a lot of VCs don't for Cascade.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's so awesome that you have people around you. I think that's one common trait with a lot of founders, but it is the community that they build, whether it's directly influenced by a co-founder relationship or their investors or just the community holistically who they've been around. We can all talk about the experience and be honest about it. And it's a really cool, community again to have conversations with and to grow along with. I know we're at the end of the episode and we could go into so many different rabbit holes, but I appreciate you sharing with the audience your experience. Last little bit is I always love to give our founders time to give us your plugs. Where can we get involved? Where can we go to be part of PrizePool? Give us your LinkedIn, your Twitters, your TikToks, our TikTok influencers, your website. Where can we download the app and get involved and start getting?
Yeah. Well, first of all, congrats to everything you guys built in your podcast. It's great. But yeah, you can find us on Twitter or website or LinkedIn. We're getprizepool.com. I think we're, just PrizePool on like Facebook and Twitter, etc. So come find us, come check us out, ask us any questions. We're here to help you anytime.
Incredible. Well, I hope you enjoyed your time on the show, and thank you again for taking time to share with our audience your experience through, early in your career, your acquisition, and then building 2 companies, all the things you've learned and being honest about where you are and what you're excited about in the near future. So Frank, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.